Good morning, Metal Summoners, as we are having a special morning episode of the Metal Summit right now with all of our beloveds. We've got the great Psycho Steve back with us, rocking out this morning. And of course, we've got Angel. Thank you for everybody who tuned in last night and rocked out with us. We had a really great time talking with Chokesetter and talking, with Steve. He was a really, really awesome guest. And we're going to jump right into all the good times here, as we are so grateful that all of you have made your ways home, as we get to talk a little bit about Patriots in Black, as well as a couple of other fun things, maybe some conversations about bagels and pizza, but we might need to keep that on the low as not to torture our current guest. But Metal Summoners, thank you guys so much. And on behalf of our guest, the great Johnny Kelly, Patriots in Black, Quiet Riot, Dancing, Typo Negative. There's so much great stuff that we can talk about. But Johnny, first and foremost, thank you so much for some of your time this morning. We really appreciate you. And welcome to the Metal Summit. It's an absolute honor to have you here.
No, thanks for having me on. Sorry, there was like a scheduling mix up, right? I had to reschedule this or something. I think it was because I was in New York.
Got you. Yeah. Because we had you, and then you were out of town, and you know, the things that you had schedules were clashing a little bit, but totally not a big deal, because Nathan had reached out to us because we had Dan on the show about a year ago for your guys' first record. And so when Home was coming out, Nathan reached back out and he was like, "Hey, I've got the guys. I would love to get you on their roster for interviews." And I was like, "Absolutely. The guys are great. We'd love to talk to all of them." Dan was fantastic. For what it's worth, we haven't had Johnny yet, so I'd love to get Johnny on the show. And Nathan was great, as he and I kind of went back and forth on what was best for you, what was best for everybody. But we got you. We have you.
I appreciate the flexibility. Thanks.
Absolutely. We have you in our clutches. But first and foremost, of course, congratulations are in order for the upcoming Patriots in Black album release for Home. And coming off of the first record and moving now into this one, how has everything been with, of course, yourself? There it is, with yourself and Dan, and of course, another collection of, guest musicians participating.
The thing that's impressive about this is how fast we've been able to put out records. Like we've done like 4. This will be the 4th record in 4 years, and I think we did an EP too. We did a bunch of covers, and then there's been other like singles released, other cover songs and stuff. And, really, it's a lot of fun.
Awesome.
And it's unusual for me with with how fast everything comes together.
Sure.
And then also, to take into account when you're dealing with so many other people, it's not just a band of just a few people, get into a room and work on your record and then release it. There's a lot of coordinating with getting all the different guests on, and it's all done remotely.
Yeah.
And so you're you're sending things out to different people, and it moves at such a pace. There's times I don't even know. I've gotten confused as to which record we were talking about.
For sure.
Because things would move at such a fast pace, and we would be doing interviews for, say, like Visioning, and we were already working on Home.
Yeah.
And I would just be like, wait, we're talking about that record. We're not talking about the one that we're working on. And because it would get referred to as the new record.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, is it the record I'm working on, like that new one, or wait, this one's just coming out. This one isn't even out yet.
Well, one of the things that I find so interesting, especially right now with you talking about just the speed in which you're able to put together these records, is using yourself as this example. You're very active with multiple projects, multiple bands that all still play out in some facet. That having a band, like you said, that's not a specific collection of guys that can set aside a chunk of time to write, to record, to potentially tour. This is you and Dan with guests and friends. There's so many schedules that you have to take into account for when they're available to write or record or participate in whatever song works for them. That your ability to just be available versus a bunch of other people, the fact that so much is falling into place with that is kind of incredible in its own right.
It's odd in a way for me, where I'm involved in a number of different things. I find myself with a lot of time at home. Really, the most time consuming thing that I have going on now is Quiet Riot, and Quiet Riot only really plays on the weekends. So usually a normal week schedule would be to like I'm flying to Michigan tomorrow. We have one show this weekend, so I'll fly to Michigan, play the show on Saturday, and I'll be home on Sunday.
Oh, okay.
And then usually Sunday, I'm usually home Sunday to say like Wednesday or Thursday. Not this month. This month is a little hairier. I'm only home for like 2 days. I think I fly back out on next Wednesday. So I'm home. I get home Sunday. I'll be home off Monday and Tuesday, and then I'm back out. And the following week we have 3 in a row. So that's a heavier schedule, but normally it isn't like that. Normally it's just 1 or 2 shows on the weekend, and then I'm home, for the beginning of the week. And when I'm home, I usually I have my studio in Dallas, and I go and I track and I do work on those other projects.
Gotcha.
This past month I was in New Orleans a lot. And that made the schedule a little crazier too, because I was working with Kenny and Kirk and Todd in Sun Don't Shine. So I would play with Quiet Riot, fly home to Dallas on Sunday, fly to New Orleans on Monday, and then I would stay in New Orleans until later in the week, and then I would fly out to wherever I was playing with Quiet Riot that weekend.
Oh, gotcha.
And then after the show, fly back to Dallas on the Sunday, and then Monday go back to New Orleans. So that was kind of crazy, but it kind of worked out in the sense that none of the other bands were really doing anything, and I was able to just put my efforts into Sun Don't Shine, and that was all I was focused on. So despite the fact that there's a lot of things going on, there seems to be quite a bit of downtime. Time for all of it. It's not like all these bands, they're not out there touring and playing live.
Because now that I think about it, because even with somebody like Glenn, when he does play out, he's doing the original Misfit stuff right now, and Dave's obviously holding down the kit for those shows and stuff like that. So it does make sense the way that you're saying it, where when people look at like the roster of still, active bands that you're a part of. When you break it down like you just did, it's like, what? All of that completely does make sense.
That's how I'm able to take on these things and to stay active that way.
Yeah.
A lot of it is work. A lot of it's work from home since the pandemic.
No, absolutely.
I've become a work from home person.
You're a stay-at-home drummer dad,
stay-at-home mom.
No, absolutely. Psycho Steve, let's kick it over to you, my friend. Let you take it away for a little bit. Shout out to Brenda, to Billy, to Barb, all watching us collectively on Facebook and YouTube. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us this morning. Psycho Steve, it's all you, my friend.
Well, I've known Johnny very, 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 very long time. We're going back to the Lemoore's days and Birchill and Studio One.
I remember the Birchill.
Showing our age now.
I know I played Studio One. I played Studio
Yes.
One. That was like I wasn't in Typo very long. I had only been in the band a few months, and we played there. And I only played there once.
Right.
You know, like
And then
all the
I
years
remember-
of like all the years of playing bars and clubs in New York and stuff like that. I only played there once. I played CBGB's once.
Right.
You know, and sorry, I don't miss it when we played there.
It's okay. But
I
did see you
felt
at
like I dodged a
L'Amour's.
bullet. Yeah, Lemoore, I played a lot.
Yes,
played
I saw
Lemoore.
you there quite a few times.
Yeah.
And then when I also saw you, where you really broke out with Typo was with Motley Crue.
Yeah.
So
Where did you see that? What show was that? Because we
that
really
was
didn't play.
in Florida.
Oh, okay. Because I was going to say we didn't play in the New York area. We
No.
played upstate. We
Right.
played like near
But no,
Syracuse and Rochester and stuff like that. But we didn't.
no, I saw you in Florida.
That tour really didn't go to a lot of major cities. It was
Right.
like the outskirts stuff, you know, like
Yeah.
the Floridas and like a lot of stuff in Texas and in the Carolinas and like that region,
Exactly.
middle America.
Yeah.
You know,
So
not too
the
many
question
major
about
cities.
the new album. So how did you and Dan meet? As far as, and did you know him when he was in like Hades or?
Well, I don't want to say I knew him. I knew of him because I had seen Hades. Hades was like one of those bands that opened up for every national act. If it wasn't Hades opening up for them, it was Carnivore.
Right.
Like a lot of like the metal, like, national acts that were going through Lemoore. It was one of those two bands that were going to be the support band. If Hades and Carnivore weren't playing together.
Right.
So I had seen Hades like actually a bunch of times. If I think about it, I had seen them a lot, and I knew who Dan was, and I had met Dan a couple of times, and actually Bobby Blitz had suggested me to Dan.
Wow.
And because Dan had this thing that he was doing and he was putting together, and Blitz was like, Kelly would be a good guy for this. So Dan reached out to me, and he talked about putting a band together, and I couldn't play in another band. I just don't have the time. I was already in so many bands. I was like, I can't do it. I said, if you want to like, write and record and stuff like that, I said, I'm totally down for that. And so then it went from there. Dan had sent me a couple of things. I think actually the first thing I did with Dan was a cover of Snowblind from Black Sabbath.
Wow.
We did a cover. And so then he started sending me a couple of his own songs. And he was asking me about who I thought would be a good singer for the band. Who would we want to use, for singer, bass player, to fill out the lineup. And I had suggested, why lock ourselves into just a couple of select people? I was like, it's not really a band. It's not a touring band. There isn't that kind of agenda. So why don't we just have different people play on it? I was like, a lot of people. I have a lot of friends. They all play. Let's grab them and have them play on the album. And there wasn't even I'd say an album. We didn't have any kind of record deal in place or anything like that. So it really just started out as a project. For me, it started as a project that was like fun. It was like a pet project, and reach out to some guys that I used to play with, and like Eric from Pale Horse. And I even had reached out I got Sal Iovara to play bass on a couple of songs. And I played with him in a band when I was like a teenager. He played bass for Andrew Dice Clay. Yeah. And we've been friends throughout the years. We've gotten together here and there, to play. So when this came up, Dan had sent me whatever, a particular song. And I was like, Sal would be really good for this. And so I reached out to Sal. Hey, I got this thing going on. Do you want to do the track? And he was like, yeah, absolutely. And so we reached out to a bunch of people like that, different singers like Carl Legel, Rob Traynor, Mark Sunshine, John Costco. We got all these people involved, and really it was just a matter of just if we didn't know them as friends, Dan was just reaching out to him saying, hey, I'm so-and-so. I'm working with Johnny from Typo. We got this thing going on. Would you like to play on a song? And then you send them the track. They put their thing on it and then send it back. And then it gets mixed and mastered and it winds up on the next release. And it winds up being a lot of fun. There's been a couple of instances where we've sent the same song to different people. And to get their different interpretation on it, which I thought was pretty interesting. Because a lot of time, I think, I forget what song it was and I forget what album it was, but we sent the same song to two different singers. They wrote two sets of lyrics, two different melody lines and stuff. And I thought that was pretty interesting to see how each of these people would interpret the song and what the end result would wind up being.
Oh, nice.
And so like to be, if it was a band in the regular structure, you probably wouldn't get the opportunity to do things like that.
Yeah.
You know, and there's been a few songs too, a bunch of cover songs where I had my brother play on it. My brother, growing up, me and my brother, he wanted to be Ace. I wanted to be Peter Criss. And we started playing at the same time. You know, Danny's life went into a different direction. He's more of a civilian. He got out of playing in bands when we were teenagers, but he still played. And he always said we would get together and jam on Kiss songs and stuff. And we'd always have fun with it. So when this came up, it was like, hey, doing this song, you want to do the solo? He'd be like, yeah. And he figured out how to use recording software. He'd grab his solo and I'd send it to the engineer to get my brother on a song.
Nice.
You know, so that was fun. And I wouldn't be able to do that, say, in like Sun Don't Shine or like Silver Tune or, you know, back when Typo was active or Danzig. You don't get the opportunity to do that. And so this is a fun vehicle to do those kinds of things.
Nice. No, absolutely. When you look at, you know, the idea of, you know, a new project for yourself, you know, what is it that kind of grabs you personally about, you know, a band's potential? Again, when it comes to like not necessarily being in a fully active band because of your schedule, that's not necessarily a viable option. But when it comes to a new project and a new creative outlet for yourself, what do you look for as something that would grab you to be like, I'm down for this?
I mean, there's been some stuff that I've done. I've done some session work, like since the pandemic, and done some session work that really I don't have like like an emotional attachment to it. Where you're just going in there, you doing your thing to somebody else's music, and you get paid for it. It's nice. But usually there has to be something. There is usually something there that grabs me in some sense. And most of the time when people are sending me things, it's usually just a guitar track. Once in a while, you'll have like a vocal and a guitar track with it, with say like a drum machine or something, you know, very basic in that sense. And but if there's something there, it has some kind of atmosphere or something like that, has some kind of vibe to it, and then I get into it. There's a guy that I met down here that I've been tracking with, and the stuff is a little outside of my comfort zone, a little bit, not too much, but it has a very like the first thing that I picked up on was like it was a very My Bloody Valentine kind of thing. So I've been playing. I recorded like a bunch of songs with him, and what the end result is going to be, I have no idea. But I love the guitar tones that he has, and I love his approach to playing the guitar and how he's using it in these songs. It has like this big, lush, noisy, slightly fucked up vibe to it. But it has something really cool in there, and I'm like, I really like this. And so then I got involved in that. He loves what I'm bringing, what I've been doing to his songs, mangling them. And so it's something like that. Like these things, it's usually not about money. There really isn't any money to be made. So just doing something to do something to broaden my scope.
Sure. Nice.
Try
Absolutely.
to step out of something, try to step out of my comfort zone and do something a little different. Say like, for instance, like Quiet Riot.
Yeah.
You know, that's pretty abstract to go from like Danzig and Typo Negative to be playing in a band like Quiet Riot.
Sure.
But behind the kit and the approach to the songs, the way the drums are applied, really isn't that much. It isn't that abstract. It's not as off or different as you would assume.
Sure. No, absolutely. And taking a quick moment on Quiet Riot before I kick it back down to Steve and Angel. You know, what can you tell us? You know, both being New York guys, I can imagine that you and Frankie always had a great relationship. Probably knew each other for a good collection of years. At the time that you were helping out with the band, while Frankie at the time was looking out for his health.
Mm-hmm.
How did that situation go? And if you don't mind, what can you tell us about the continuation of Quiet Riot with you taking over the throne? How did those conversations go?
A lot of it all started from my relationship with Alex Grassi, who plays guitar in Quiet Riot. I played with him in the band Hookers and Blow with Dizzy Reed and Mike Duda. And I knew Frankie was sick. And I knew that he was going in for treatments and stuff. And it started out innocently enough. They were playing in Dallas. They had a date coming up in Dallas. And I turned around to Alex. I said, I know Frankie's in rough shape. I said, I'm going to be there anyway. I said, do you want me to hang out and like help Frankie during the day so that he has Quiet Riot doesn't have any crew or anything like that. It's just the four guys. We just go set up, play, and then leave. And so I knew that he was going to be pretty much on his own to do a lot of stuff. So I was like, you want me to come and help Frankie? I'll keep an eye on him, help him set up, whatever, so that he has more energy for the show. And Frankie was into the idea. He was like, yeah, that's a good idea. It's cool. Thanks. That's great. See you in Dallas. And I had mentioned to Alex just in passing, really not expecting it. I said, hey, if it ever comes up, a situation ever comes up, Frankie can't play, and you want me to cover the gig, I'll do it. I'll cover for Frankie. Play the show. And not really ever expecting anything like that because I could never see Quiet Riot playing without Frankie, especially at that point. And 2 days before that Dallas show, Alex calls me. He's like, yeah, we need you to do the gig. Frankie's not coming. I was like, shit. And I had to learn the set in 2 days. Some of the stuff I was familiar with, growing up with Quiet Riot, it's like my first band that I ever played in. I think we played Bang Your Head. So some of it I was familiar with, and some of it I had to definitely study. But 2 days later, get to the show. We got through the show, somehow survived it without any major train wrecks. And,
sure.
And then after that, after we got through that, then it was starting to happen a little bit more frequently as Frankie's health was starting to really deteriorate. And it was like, are you available for this show? Can you do this one? Can you do that? Can you do this? And then it started, and then it wound up being, are you available for the rest of the year? Rest of the calendar year. And at that time, I had a 2-week tour in Europe with Pale Horse scheduled. And I had told him, I said, I just have this 2-week tour. It's like I can't get out of it. All tickets are bought, every deposits are in, all that stuff. I got to go. I said, but those are the only 2 weeks I'm not available. I can make myself available the rest of the year. And then the following year, Frankie passed away. But before he passed away, he was getting everything in order about how he, taking care of, getting things sorted out with his family and getting his affairs sorted out. And he wanted the band to keep going. And when it came to the drum position, he was like, call Kelly. Have Kelly I want Kelly to do it. So I thought I was honored. And Frankie was one of my heroes when I first started playing and stuff. You know, he's always had respect, a lot of respect for him as a drummer. He's always been a fantastic drummer, and becoming friends, and like we were friends online, and it was always like geeking out about drums, you know, talking about, you know, old Ludwig kits and, you know, things like that. And but I was really flattered and honored that he wanted me to, you know, keep the band going. And it was busy, but not too bad. And then Rudy Sarzo came back to the band. And then when Rudy came back to the band, then it got crazy. We were playing a lot. We played a lot of shows the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And this year's a little bit slower. We didn't do any shows in January and February, so it was pretty weird. Like talking about time off and things like that, time for other things. I was home for 2 months, literally home. You know, I was going back and forth to New York a bit, you know, taking care of my mother's house and, you know, stuff like that, which I'm glad I had the time off. But this year, it seems like it's been like a 20% drop in gigs.
Okay.
So that kind of helps. I mean, kind of sucks to be out of work, but at the same time, it gives me time to do other things and to take care of other stuff.
For sure.
And,
yeah, because we all saw you last year at the M3 festival.
Right. Yeah.
That was super duper awesome. And you're actually coming to Baltimore soon, playing at the Horseshoe Casino with Quiet Riot.
Yeah, I saw the Baltimore date on it. I saw the flights. A lot of that stuff. There's always so much going on. I don't really pay attention to where I'm going to be.
Yeah.
I just look at my schedule and I was like, I have to be at the airport on Thursday at 5 a.m. Yeah. That's it. And then I look at, I'll be home on Sunday at like 10 o'clock. Everything else in between, just
as the old saying goes, like I'm there where the bus stops. Like
yeah. Well, that's how it used to be, and that was that was a whole lot easier.
Oh, for sure,
way easier. I totally missed the bus. Now it's a lot of time in airports, man. And that stuff will beat the hell out of you, and you're always subjected to the schedules and delays and cancellation. My flight got canceled. I was in Louisville this weekend, and after the show, right, my flight was the next morning at like 7 o'clock. The show ends. I get to the hotel and I pull my phone out, and there's a notice at like 10 o'clock at night. My flight's been canceled for the morning.
Oh, jeez.
Without any reschedule. There's no, the notice says it's been canceled. We're working on rebooking your flight.
Oh, no.
That's it, you know. Hours later, I get a notification saying that my flight I've been rebooked and now I'm going home on Monday. So so now I have like a day and a half in Louisville. Like, see you Monday. You know, don't call us.
Oh my God.
So then I had to do like a mad scramble and go online. I wound up buying a flight with another carrier, and I managed to get home only about an hour or two later than I was supposed to.
Oh, nice.
But that instance, I was fortunate enough where there was another option to get another flight. There's been times where we've been delayed and canceled. And thankfully, there really hasn't been. I don't think there's been an instance where the flights made us miss a show. There may have been one gig since I've been playing in the band, because everything's fly-out dates.
Yeah.
There may have been one where we missed a show because flights got canceled and we couldn't find something that we didn't have any other alternate option to get to wherever it was.
Yeah.
But that it can be stressful as opposed to the bus. The bus, you wake up, you step out, and you're at the gig.
Absolutely.
And then you finish playing and you step back in, you step out of the club, the venue, or wherever, and there's your bus. There's your living room, your bed.
Yep.
It's all right there.
No, 100% for sure.
Yeah, I miss it. I tell the guys all the time. I was like, oh man, I miss the bus. And
Totally, man. Angel, let's kick it over to you, my friend. Of course, I know that you have had your fair share of flight adventures, especially in recent time when we were having a hard time just getting you to Nashville, my friend.
Oh man, don't remind me. That get to Cleveland for Steve Lynch Hall of Fame thing where the plane cannot get above 10,000 feet. Then the plane returns, takes off again. You still can't get above 10,000 feet. Well, just fly at 10,000 feet.
Just love it.
Wow. Yeah, there's so many mishaps like that. And, you're booking flights. You try to stay away from certain airports. Like we try to avoid O'Hare, like for connecting flights and stuff. It's like you know you're going to have a problem if you're flying through Chicago. What's cool is like a lot of stuff that we do connects through Dallas. So a lot of times these other flights the flights home, I'm usually is a large percentage of the time I'm home before breakfast on Sunday. So I wound up like having that whole day, at home and stuff. And but there are definitely certain airports that you definitely try to avoid. And usually for us, it's always O'Hare. You want to stay away from that place. You're getting delayed.
Just want to thank Billy for joining us. He definitely has a few questions, really good ones. What inspires you to keep going after all you have been through?
What? I really don't. I don't really put a lot of thought into that. It's something that I still genuinely enjoy doing. I love playing. I've had all kinds of different jobs, all kinds of different trades, and this is my favorite one, and this is the one that I'm the best at. It's like I tried to telling my kids this when my kids were younger, and I talked to them about what do you want to do when you grow up? Like those kind of questions and stuff. And you'd be like, oh, I want to do this. I want to do that. And I would try to share with them where I was, I said, I'm sure I could have done something else as a career that probably would have had more security, made more money, things like that. I said, but I get to do something that I love. And the thing that I don't do is I'm not sitting there looking at my watch going, is it 5 o'clock yet? And I said, if you can make a career out of something that you love, you never really worry about the time. I said, making a lot of money isn't necessarily going to make you happy. You'll just have a lot of money. That's it. I said, if you could have a job where you're making a lot of money, but you're still looking at the clock going, is it 5 o'clock yet? I can't wait to get out of here. I said that to me, that's not happiness. And I said, if you do something that you love and you manage to earn a living doing it, I said to me that's success. And I've been fortunate enough, I've been able to do that. Because even if I had a different career, say different job or doing something else with my life that was more secure and whatever, I probably would still be doing this after 5 o'clock. I get home and I would be in the studio doing something, playing, and so that's what I guess that's the main thing that keeps me motivated. I still love doing it. It's still fun. The travel wears you out, but playing every weekend and going into the studio and working on new music, and just swinging drumsticks is way more fun than swinging hammers. And I've been saying that for years. And if I get to do that every day instead of working some, I mean, I'll make no qualms about it. Where my life was going, it was manual labor. I wasn't going to be a scientist or a stockbroker or real estate agent or doctor. There was nothing going to be like that. I was manual labor. That was my destination. And as far as manual labor goes, this is one of the cooler jobs.
Yes, it is. I definitely agree.
It keeps me young.
Absolutely.
It absolutely keeps me young and immature.
That's the best way to be. Who wants to grow old and be boring?
Well, I mean, there are definitely people out there that are very comfortable with having a very secure, stable home, family life, good job, nice house. So it's plenty of people out there that like that enjoy it and get fulfillment out of it, and it's that's the goals that they had set for themselves, and they reached it, and that's great. It just wasn't for me, and I don't know why, but I knew very early on as a kid and as a teenager and stuff, I was like, this is what I want to do. I mean, I thought when I was a teenager, I thought for sure I'd be retired at 30 because after 30, you're too old to play rock and roll. And that didn't work out like I expected.
Tell that to the Rolling Stones.
Right. Well, actually, the Stones also, they've been doing it at such a high level for so many years. Johnny Kelly, not so much. There's been a lot of dark periods and struggle, and but yeah, it keeps me young, and it helps me stay in shape, and yeah, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, and I managed to earn a living doing it.
Do you have any favorite drummers?
Of course, I have favorite drummers. The first two, Bill Ward and John Bonham. Those are the primary ones. But throughout the years, there's been so many. You get on a certain kick. When I was a teenager, when I first started playing, it was like Frankie Banali and Tommy Lee. And moving on later on, a little bit, a couple of years down the road, you get into thrash metal, and I'm into Lars Ulrich and Charlie Benante, and even Rat Skates from Overkill was big influence at that point. And then moving on after that, starting to get back more into the classics and players like I was a big fan of Tommy Aldridge, Cozy Powell. Who else? I mean, there's so many. Of course, there was a period too. The guys like Clive Burr and Nico McBrain and Dave Holland, Les Binks. The list goes on. It was you always find something from a lot of the bands that I grew up listening to, where I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I got to learn how to do that. How to do that, and whatever. And that was pretty cool. That's a great song, and great. And throughout the years, it's gone like that. Different things. Drummers like Artemis Pyle from Leonard Skinner. Steve Gorman from the Black Crowes, Kenny Jones from the Faces. I've been kind of on a Faces kick lately. Jerry Shirley from Humble Pie, and there's Mitch Mitchell. Jesus, there's so many, and the list just can keep going. Ringo, Charlie Watts. Those were the first two. My dad basically indoctrinated me with the Beatles and the Stones as a kid. Those were the nursery records in the house. We didn't have Mary Had a Little Lamb. We had, Get Your Yayas Out, and Beggar's Banquet and Abbey Road. We didn't have that. My dad brought home Kiss Alive. Peter Criss was the main reason why I wanted to play drums. He was the one, absolutely. Me, like millions of other kids my age that discovered Kiss Alive, kind of like that moment, the generation before me, where everybody was watching the Beatles on Ed Sullivan. That was our Ed Sullivan moment. Kiss Alive, and that was it. Every Halloween, you're Peter Criss for Halloween, and then you wanted to play, and that's what made me want to be a drummer.
He holds down the bass duties when you're out with Danzig, but do you and Steve, have you guys ever just gotten into just like deep dive drum conversations about just like drums? And
we talk, well, Steve and I, we talk every day. He's my best friend.
Yeah.
he's my best friend. He's my therapist. he's my agent. Steve wears a lot of hats with me. And yeah, we talk a lot. I lean on Steve. Steve does a lot of recording and production work. So I'm always leaning on him. Hey, how do I do this? How do I get this? Listen to this. How does this sound? What this tom sound sucks. How do I get a better tom sound? Whatever. What do you think of this kick? So I'm always like poking his brain that way. But we talk a lot about drums. But Steve and I, we do come from different backgrounds musically. I'm more of definitely more rooted in classic rock, and Steve's whole upbringing is punk.
Yeah,
he loves the Misfits, he loves the Damned, and
yep.
So a lot of that stuff, the Ramones, a lot of that, I missed a lot of that stuff. I mean, I liked the Ramones when I was a kid, but I got introduced to the Ramones on what was the record that Phil Spector did?
Oh,
the one with Rock and Roll Radio.
Yeah.
I forget the name of the record. You see my history of the Ramones, them being on my radar is kind of limited. It wasn't Rocket to Russia.
No, it was
You're looking it up.
I am.
Google.
Go Google go.
So the Phil Spector record, that's when when that record come out, like 79, 80,
and
something
end
like
of the
that.
Century.
There. Okay. What year did that come out?
1980.
See,
like 79, 80.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to say. And that's when I got introduced. I got introduced to the Ramones then, but it's in 1979. I'm only 11 years old. And punk rock was not in my house. I had my father and I had my uncle who lived upstairs with my grandparents. We grew up in a two-family mother-daughter house. And my uncle lived upstairs and he played guitar. And so he was turning me on to things like Jeff Beck and Jimi Hendrix and like Frank Zappa, more guitar-oriented stuff. Peter Frampton. It's the 70s.
Yeah.
And my dad was more Beatles and Stones, a big Bowie fan, Rod Stewart. Nice. And so those were the things that I was being exposed to. So the Ramones weren't in the house. I didn't have that exposure to them until my friends, neighbors, friends of mine, we all grew up. Some of the older kids, they turned me on to the Ramones and Black Sabbath, things like that. And but that's where Steve comes from. Steve's all about like that kind of stuff. So he'll tell me about these bands and these different players or whatever. I'm like, who? I was like, not a clue. I was like, I think I heard of them.
Oh, for sure. I love that. I love that he's been doing more morning noise stuff. I think that's so awesome.
Yeah, it's great. And the stuff, like every time he's always sending me a song. He's like, what do you think of this? And blah, blah, like the way I send him stuff, he's always sending me what they're working on. And with Morning Noise, like every song has like a huge hook in it and stuff. Like the songs are really well written, and I keep on telling him it's like every song has this huge hook in it. It needs to get on the right label. It could definitely be successful.
Yeah,
it needs to get to the right people. Mm-hmm. And he does all that stuff in his house.
Oh,
He does
wow.
all the production work in his house. He does some mixing. They go to another guy that we know. There's a guy, a friend of his wound up buying like Whitney Houston's house,
Oh,
their old house. And there's a studio built into the house. And so they've been going there to do like mixing and stuff. But everything that they've turned out is great. Robbie's a great singer.
yes.
Kid's got a great voice.
Mhm.
And I could tell right away that Steve's playing on the drums. There's a certain character in his drumming, and I'm like, there it is. And I'll be doing stuff, some of the stuff that I've recorded for whatever. It's even some stuff like Patriarchs, and I'll send it to him, and I'm like, I'm trying to be Steve Zing in this song. What do you think?
Am I close?
It's hard. When you don't play like that, it's hard. It's hard to do it.
No,
And,
that's-
so I'll send him the song. It's like, I was trying to do my best Steve Zing. Let me know what you think.
grade me, but be gentle.
Mhm.
Right.
Well, there's like a lot of punk rock, like that punk rock to me was an attitude.
Yeah.
And being that I don't come from that environment, it's hard to, I guess, have that insight to how it's done.
Yeah.
You could watch people do it, but if you come from a different place, you're not going to get it.
Oh no, for sure. Absolutely. Angel, right back up to you, my friend.
We pop up this question. Let's talk 70 Super B. Not sure what that is.
My baby. That's my car. I have before I got the music bug, I was into hot rods. I was, a kid in the 70s, and there were, Cudas and Chevelles and GTOs and all kinds of stuff all over my block, all on my street. And it was something that I was always into when I was a kid. Other kids were buying comic books, and I was buying Hot Rod magazine. It's true. And I just wanted, my whole growing up, I wanted a 70 Chevelle. And then when I got old enough I started driving or whatever, got my driver's license, and then I started getting my own cars, and I had a 71 Demon, and it started there. And then I had a couple of Cudas, bought different parts cars, and I started as I started getting older, I started becoming more of a gearhead. And then my Super B, I bought that car when we finally finished touring for Bloody Kisses in '95. I've had the car 30 years. And we finished touring for Bloody Kisses. And while we were touring on that record, I had a Cuda. I had a 73 Cuda. I had a 74 Cuda. And I had sold everything. And so then when the tour ended and I came home, I needed to buy a car. I had no way of getting around. I needed a car. And I came across this Super B. And it wasn't my first choice, but the car was complete. I could drive it, and I just needed to put plates on it and insurance. And then that was my car. That was my daily driver for like the first 10 years I had the car. And I bought it at the time. I bought it for like $2,900, and I thought I got beat. I thought I got ripped off. And now those cars, they've gone so high in value and stuff like that. I'm fortunate that I've been able to hold on to it throughout all the ups and downs and everything. I haven't gotten to a place where it's like, I need to sell the car because I need the money. Didn't get to anything like that. And I've over the years, I've built, I'm on 3 different engines. I don't need 4 different transmissions, body work and engine work and suspension work. And now I got the car. I've been down in Texas for 8 years. I finally got the car shipped down to Texas last year. And I just started. Since I got it back, I've done all kinds of work on it. I do a lot of the work myself. There's certain things that I can't do, but most of it I do myself, and it's always been a passion of mine. So it's always been a lot of fun, and that's where my life was going before things took a turn, like with Typo Negative, where Typo Negative became like a working band. I was working in a shop. Peter used to bring that car that he had. He used to bring that car to my shop, and I used to do work on it. And he would come and hang out with me, and he knew he was friends with my boss, and he would come and hang out, and I did a bunch of work on the car, and that's kind of where my life was going at that point. And then Typo was now starting to become a working band. When I first joined the band, there were no goals or aspirations or anything to like go for it. It wasn't anything like that. It was very, very clearly stated, don't quit your day job. That was it. Which I didn't care, because I had a job, which was nice. And I just wanted to be in the band. I didn't care what they did. You don't want to tour, whatever, fine. I've never really toured in a band anyway, so it's not like I'm missing anything, or it was, I just wanted to be in the band. I love the music. I loved the band, and it was whatever this becomes, I want to be a part of it.
After all these years, people still talk about Typo Negative. Are you
Right.
surprised at all the body of music that you guys made that people still talk about and are still interested in today?
It's pretty mind blowing, I have to admit. I'm really surprised by it, because I never, none of us ever thought about the band ever having any kind of like legacy, or where we were leaving something behind. We while we were doing the band, while the band was active, everything that we did, we always thought that this would be the last thing we ever did, and that would be the end of it. The band will fall apart, the band will break up or whatever, and we'll just disappear and go get jobs and get on with the rest of our lives. We never thought that the band would last as long as it did. And now, after Peter being gone for 15 years, and people are still talking about the band, it's pretty crazy. Never thought that. We never thought that there would be any kind of legacy or anything. We figured that all the records would wind up in the used bin, and it would just be, that moment in time where it was like, oh yeah, that band from back then. I remember them.
And Matthew wants to know when's the Sun Don't Shine album dropping?
That's a good question. I really don't know. Let me see. I'll send. Let me send a text message to Drew. Let's see. I know that there's. We just finished. We were just in New Orleans the past month working on. I believe it would be the last 3 songs for the record. And, for a while, it was kind of touch and go about what we were going to do, whether we were going to do like an EP, or we just going to release songs, one at a time, just release them like that. Are we going to do a full record? There was a bunch of back and forth with that. And we did decide that we're going to release a record, a full length record. And I believe it's coming out. Shooting for the end of September, early October. So I guess it's coming out pretty soon. I had no idea.
Wow. So that's 2 new releases you got coming out.
Yeah. There's always something, it seems. I like that kind of takes me by surprise too.
All right. And just to confirm, this one that we're talking about now, Home,
that comes out in less than a month.
Yep, August 15th, right?
Yeah. Yes. And
I love that.
I'm not sure if that's worldwide or if that's like if they're doing it in Europe first, or like Dan sends me a text message last week saying that they just approved, the artwork just got approved for the CD last week. Like, all that stuff is usually supposed to be done like months in advance because of the manufacturing process and stuff like that. It's usually it takes 3 months. That's like the standard for the manufacturing to get everything packaged, pressed, distributed. Usually that process normally would take 3 months. I believe it takes a little bit longer for vinyl because there aren't as many vinyl plants where they actually press the records and stuff. So and with the popularity of vinyl the last few years, there's like a backlog. It takes longer to get your record out on vinyl. And so yeah, Dan sent that. He sent that to me last week. He's like, they just approved the artwork for the CD. I was like, that can't be good.
The artwork looks.
And it was actually, the thing he sent me was just 2 pictures of us. So, but it needs to be approved and get sent, and then the whole manufacturing process, does its thing. And I asked, I was like, is this going to affect the release date? Because it's so late in the game, so late at this point, for an August 15th release, you're doing approving artwork 5 weeks before the release date. That could be a problem. That could definitely be a delay. And you wouldn't think that because it's something so minor, but it's not. It's all part of it. And at that point, we were still waiting to hear back if that's going to affect the release date. I don't believe I got a response from Dan. I'm not sure if he heard from anybody in regards to that. But that's the kind of stuff. That kind of stuff happens all the time. I mean, that stuff used to happen even back in the day with Typo. Sometimes there'd be some little snag in something, and it would hold up the release, and it'd get pushed back a few weeks or whatever. But
the album.
Yeah. When will Patriarchs in Black ever tour? I don't know if we'll ever tour. I mean, there's just too many people to harness, to corral, to get in one room. You're talking like in the neighborhood of like 20 people.
Wow.
And, just the logistics of that would be a total nightmare. It'd kind of be like back to the beginning that happened with Sabbath last 2 weeks ago. Just the flights and the hotels. Where are you going to put all these people?
True.
And when you start getting into the X's and O's of it, it's just not feasible. It's just too many people. It would cost too much money, and it would be fun, but it would be such a challenge. But it would be fun. It would be to get all those people in a room and go through the songs and play all the songs together. A bunch of these people I never met in person.
Wow.
I just know them online, through emails and text messages and stuff like that. But a lot of them, yeah, I've never sat in a room with them and hey, what's up? Or worked together on a song in that way. Everything has been done remotely.
And Billy just wants to know any major labels that you would recommend to work with. Devil in Disguise is looking for a fair-minded group.
That's hard to say. The role of a record label, it seems, has changed over the years. Especially with the way the things like I'm a dinosaur when it comes to this stuff. No, really, I am, and it's been hard for me to play catch up, and like basically now a standard record deal for a new band is give us a finished record and we'll put it out and we'll split the money. That's not going to be favorable to you. That's, some labels they won't even entertain you depending on they won't even entertain the conversation depending on how many followers you have on like Spotify or YouTube or TikTok, whatever social media. They want strong social media presence, and it's like, if I have that, why do I need you?
Right.
True.
And so then what are you doing for me? that I'm going to give you 60% of what I earn. What's that? What, you can manufacture the CDs and put them in the stores, and it's like, what stores? Everything's mail order anyway.
Yeah.
And so that's part of the business model that I'm having a hard time, adjusting to. For years, like with Typo, it was a totally different story. Like Typo would sell records, and the label had everything in house. They had an in-house publicist, radio people, and there were a lot. They were working for the band, and now it seems like the band. I don't know if this is accurate to say, but it's like the band is working for the label, and it's like you have to. The label wants a lot more of the DIY approach. You have to like healthcare. You have to be your own advocate, and what's cool is I was talking to Dan about this recently. Metalville, which is a small label, they're not very big, and there isn't a lot of money in it. Like I don't even think the money, without getting into all the details, I don't even think the money that we got for the record covered the mixing.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, but they've taken steps where they've hired a publicist, and they have Munzie doing working radio and stuff like that. So that's cool. So that is a good model, because then it kind of justifies what you're giving up. At least you're getting something in return, instead of just them printing CDs for you, and then you're out there, hustling it and selling it out of the trunk of your car anyway. And so that's for me, that's been a hard thing to adjust to. But I mean, a good mid-level label, I don't even know. I don't know of one. There are some. I guess Cleopatra would be like a mid-level label. Nuclear Blast is a little bit bigger. Roadrunner is still around. I don't know if they're signing new bands or anything, but it's just the title at Universal. I think there's literally like one guy that works at Roadrunner.
Wow.
Like there's one guy in the office, and then everything else is done through Universal. But I mean, there's plenty of them out there, and it's I guess like the one good thing, the thing that we did with which was interesting, we did this with the last Kill Devil Hill release. We wound up licensing it. So you sign a deal, you hand them a finished record, everything's done, all the artwork, all of it's finished, and we do a licensing deal with a particular label. I forget the name of the label at this right now off the top of my head, but they'll put it out for X amount of years, and then you get everything back. It belongs to you after the term is up, instead of like a label that most of the time they'll own your work. A lot of times in perpetuity, forever. You basically give it up. But this way, if you license it, then it's still your property after whatever 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, whatever the terms are. And then after that's up, then you can go and go to another label distributor or whatever and negotiate different terms on that record. If you have a hit, it definitely works out in your favor, because then you're not really, it's yours. And you're not really sharing it with somebody. And you have the ability to negotiate better terms, things like that. Like if you have a hit, if the record nobody buys it and nobody cares, then it doesn't really matter anyway. It's an ugly aspect of making music. It really is. And and if you look at it that way, I would never recommend somebody getting into a band and trying to make a career out of this. I would never do it. I'm so glad my kids didn't get into it. And I'm so glad my girls didn't date musicians. Well,
no, for sure.
There'd be more people that I would have had to take care of.
Just for forever babysitting.
Yeah. That'd be the worst one. The girls have jobs.
Like, oh, get that bum off your couch.
Right, exactly. Exactly. So I was.
Imagine we sitting on the couch asking, "Can you join our band?"
Yeah. Can you help me get a deal?
No. No. I don't even like the fact that you know my daughter.
Right. Exactly. Just get out of my house.
Yeah. So Johnny, another thing that's like pretty popular and pretty, that's been kind of a big thing over recent years, especially in music, have been books and autobiographies. Is that an avenue that you've explored?
I haven't explored it. No, I hear people tell me all the time, you should really write a book,
Yeah.
There's a lot of stories, like I don't have a 401k, but I have a lot of stories. But no, I never thought about that. I never really had any aspirations to want to, write a book or anything like that. It would be interesting to see, like the whole thing documented. But, like it would need to include the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I don't want to share that. I don't want to have to sit there and face that and answer to it again.
Right. It's like, okay, do we
yeah, let me document all this trauma and mishaps and all this other bullshit.
No, absolutely. It's like, oh, do I really like need to relive this?
Right. Yeah. Let's talk about the failed marriages and like the failed marriages and the trauma of the growing up and and all the mishaps with the band and rehabs and police records and fights and all kinds of shit. No, I don't want to revisit that.
For sure. Absolutely. So Metal Summoners, both watching us on Facebook and on YouTube, we really appreciate you guys hanging out with us. You guys have been absolute rock stars. Such great interaction, great questions for Johnny, and all kinds of great interaction, like I said before. It is, however, going to be last call for alcohol. Johnny's been incredibly gracious with his time. We're going to rock out with him for a little bit longer, but we don't want to eat up too much of his morning, considering that we know that he has things on his agenda for today. So final call for questions, comments, anything that you want to ask him. We always clear the board. We'll make sure that you're heard, but this is going to be the time to make sure that you get your comments and your questions into the chat, so that way Angel and I see them. So Johnny, one of the things I would like to take a little bit moment, of course, being that you and the band were such a huge inspiration to me growing up with my musical taste, is I'd love to take a little moment with Typo. first of all, I'd love to ask just what are just some of your fondest memories of Peter? And the other thing that kind of is part of my book question, but also documentaries have become a thing. And you guys, especially with that band, and your personal story with that is great, you know, because of course with Sal, you know, leading into yourself. Have you, Kenny, you know, the guys ever been approached of a real, like, you know, no nonsense documentary, but of course, like a book, there's a certain amount of good, bad, and ugly that would be a part of that. But anyway, going back up to the top, you know, it's been a moment since, of course, we don't have Peter with us, but what are just some of your fondest memories of Peter?
Peter really was like, he was really a funny guy. And that's like now, Kenny and I were doing an interview recently, and like a lot of, with 15 years has gone by since the band did its last show, since the band was active. So now a lot of it I look back on, and I look back on it fondly. So, yeah, so a lot of like the trauma and a lot of the bad stuff kind of like, you know, sits in the back more than, you know, I think more about the funny stuff and, you know, a lot of the, you know, the better times.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you know, Peter just in general was like a very funny guy, a very self-deprecating sense of humor. And he was a lot of times a very, very sharp wit. Mm-hmm. So, you know, just like wisecracks that would come out would be like, you know, very funny and stuff. And he was, you know, right before he passed away, you know, it was good to be able to, and I've said this before, it's like, you know, just to have like normal conversations, you know. Yeah. Because he wasn't like, you know, spun out or, you know, drunk or, you know, like where it was like, you know, there's a lot of the chaos that would come with the substances, you know, like just talking to him about other things. Like, you know, he was like, you know, I bought a car. he's like, I got a Jeep. It's like, oh, cool. It's like, you really shouldn't be driving, but that's cool that you but just like after he got sober and then talking about like making plans about getting ready to work on the next record. Mm-hmm. You know, like he was planning on moving back to New York. He was living out in Scranton.
He was living out where?
Scranton.
Oh, Scranton. Yeah.
Yeah. He was out in Pennsylvania. And we had just signed a new record deal, and now it was getting to that point that we were going to have to start working on getting together to work on the record. So he was making plans to move back, and so like those kind of discussions. So that was cool, like just having like regular discussions. I mean, there was a lot of band business that was having to be taken care of because of the new record deal and all that stuff, and getting logistics sorted out, you know, finding studios and blah, blah, blah. And it was cool to be able to talk to him and have him like be a part of that.
Yeah. Just
like normal stuff. So that was cool. You know, it was nice to have that. And then unfortunately he passed away, but you know, it was nice that those are my last memories of him.
Nice. Absolutely.
Instead of like, you know, so instead of like, you know, like him, you know, whatever, being in a rehab or, you know, like involving police or some other kinds of crazy shit. That those aren't my last memories of him. My last memories of him are just very normal friends, you know. Absolutely. So that's cool. And, you know, it was cool. It was always impressive to see how, creative he was and his ability to create even in his worst states. You know, he could be in his worst states and he could come up with riffs and melody lines and all kinds of stuff. And we'd be like, how's he doing this? The guy just drank a bottle of Jaeger. It's like, like first it's like, how is he standing? And then he would like, you know, he would still come up with stuff. And it's like, I can't believe he was able to do this. And he just had that kind of mind. And it was just a natural ability to him.
That's awesome.
So that's a cool thing to remember about him. And it's like, you know, I've said it before, like, you know, like him as a musician. And I've never played with somebody that was as unique as him. Mm-hmm. You know, his whole approach to the instrument, it was just so unique unto itself. And I've been fortunate in a way, I've been able to play with a lot of like really great players.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that comes close to that.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And also speaking of unique players, because like his tone is so recognizable in Typo songs. But Brenda, who's been watching the episode, wanted to know if you're still in contact with Josh.
Yes, of course. Yeah, we stay in touch all the time.
Nice.
Well, it's life gets in the way. Josh is very busy with the fire department and stuff, and I'm here in Texas, 1,500 miles away. I saw Josh the last time. It was my mother's funeral. He came. He and his wife came to my mother's funeral. And but before that, I hadn't seen him, like stood in a room with him. It'd been years. But there's the text messages between everybody and stuff. We're all in touch, and
Nice.
And yeah, so I mean, obviously, I speak to Kenny a lot more, because of everything that we have going on. But yeah, like there's the group thread, the three of us with our manager, and it's like, all right, this is what's going on, blah blah blah, and everybody's chirping and wisecracks, and we had a Zoom call last week, and you kind of like pick up right where you left off.
Sure.
Not much. A lot has changed. The more things change, the more they stay the same. Josh is still very much the same person.
Oh, definitely, for sure. And speaking of Kenny, because I saw your guys' first show in Baltimore, but what's the current status of Silvertone?
The record's done. And I think there's still a couple of songs that need to be mixed. Shit, at this point, I think I did the drum tracks for the last. I mean, some of those drum tracks were done years ago. I've always referred to the record as Chinese Democracy too.
Right.
And but the record's recorded and everything. There's a bunch of mixes have been done. I think there's still some mixing to be done, and then try to get it out. I think they're shooting to try to get it out the first quarter next year.
Nice.
I think that's what it was. I usually just throw sarcastic comments at everybody when they start talking about that stuff. It's like, I'll believe it when I see it.
Sure. No, I definitely get that. And
but the record's done, and the record is really cool. It's
nice.
Like the songwriting on that record is so much stronger than the first one.
Okay.
I'm really excited about it. But at the same time, very frustrated because it's taking so damn long.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I've got the vinyl of your first record.
Yeah, the record's cool. But this one, the songwriting is definitely stronger on it. Definitely better.
Nice.
Like it seems like there's a little bit more like a little bit stronger of a Pink Floyd vibe. Like, like kind of like the Wall.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And yeah, I dig it. Like as I was working on it, as I was doing the drum tracks and stuff, I was like, wow, this is really cool. And I would tell Kenny too. I was like, how did you do this? I was like, what's going on over there?
Oh, for sure. And before I kick it back up to Angel for anything final, before we let you go, I just circling back around. Has there ever been any talks of a legit like Typo documentary?
There was. We were talking to this one company. Maybe like last fall, something like that. There were a lot of discussions. We were approached by this company, and it had gotten to the point where we were okay with it, and we had asked to see a treatment. And it got to the point where there was contracts. We were going to go with it, and it fell apart at the last minute because we wanted final say on the whole thing, and they wouldn't give it to us. So then we passed on it.
Oh no, absolutely. You guys should absolutely have
right,
final say.
and that was it. And like from what I've learned after that experience was that's kind of like standard stuff with these companies with the documentary makers or whatever, like I don't have a lot of experience
Sure
in that. And the guy that was writing it, he was totally on board with that too, letting us, he was okay with us having the final say, because I mean, you look at a band like Typo Negative, we haven't been shy about, hiding, we've always been about the good, the bad, and the ugly, and it really needs to be there. But we wanted final say on how it would ultimately, portray, how the story would be told. And they wouldn't budge, so we just pulled out on it, and we was, that this isn't the right one. That's it.
Yep.
Like I've always felt like to try to step outside of the band, and even if you don't like the band, there's a story there that's pretty intense.
Yeah.
And somewhere down the road it needs to be told.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't have to like it. You don't have to like the band. You just the story itself. The story itself is pretty compelling.
Yeah.
And so I think somewhere down the road it should be done. Just on that alone.
Yeah.
But the right thing, we haven't been approached by the right people. The right situation hasn't presented itself yet.
Absolutely.
It's not something that we're going to take the initiative and do ourselves. We wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But
you need the right phone call to come to you, or
the right people, the people that that could tell the story, that really get it. That really, that's the only way I could describe, that really get what the band is, and then they could tell the story, and of course it would be, it would be interesting. It would be funny. It would be tragic. It would be insane. It would have all the elements in there that would make, to me, I think would make a good, rock band documentary.
Yeah, no, it definitely would be, for sure.
Yeah.
Brenda, thank you so much for the kind words. We appreciate that you've had such a good time this morning, watching Johnny's interview. So thank you so much for the shout out that you've enjoyed yourself, for sure. Angel, let's kick it up to you, my friend. Is there anything final from you? I think you're muted, buddy.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
There you go.
Just want to read this really cool fan comment from Barb. I met you guys in the early 90s. I still have my shirt and ticket that you signed. It was a pleasure meeting you.
Oh, very cool. You see, and it's like you go back now, this is 30 years ago.
Yeah.
30. Not 5, not 3, 30. And
Jay wasn't even born yet.
A lot of these, finding now, it's funny. Like on my social media pages and stuff, we see like on Instagram, getting a lot of new followers. Like the last, like this year, a lot of followers, and they're like teenagers and stuff, like kids. And I was telling my daughter about it. Right, my daughter's 24, and I said, I'm getting a lot of kids are following me on Instagram. I was like, how are these people? How do these people know who I am? And she was like, Dad, she's like, I've been telling you forever. She's like, TikTok. She's like, your music's all over TikTok. I was like, oh, okay. I was like, I guess it makes sense, because but like a lot of younger people are discovering the band, and it's surprising. Yeah. And again, never expected it, and to think now you've run across people like Barb. I met you in the 90s. The 90s, 30 years ago. Yeah, and she's still it's still held in high regard. I still have the ticket stub, and all that whole thing that comes with that, and it's mind blowing.
Yeah,
yeah.
Like even myself, being such a long time enthusiast of the band, and so appreciative of all the music that you guys gave me. The first time that you and I actually met was actually in Las Vegas. It was when you and Danzig played Psycho Fest back in 2016. And I was walking around the casino floor, and you came walking by, and I was with my friend, and he was like, I was like, dude, hang on a second. I have to go say hi to Johnny Kelly. I've never actually met him before. I was like, just hang tight. And that was super cool. And then it wasn't that long after that, like I said, you and Kenny played Baltimore Soundstage with Silver Tomb, and got to say hi again. But no, for sure. But she does make a point with the whole TikTok thing, because especially the short videos when it comes to like Halloween anything, whether it be a Halloween this or what they call Code Orange when the decor comes out. You're always hearing as like the background music, Black Number One or My Girlfriend's Girlfriend or I Don't Want to Be Me. They're so.
It's funny, like you mentioned, I Don't Want to Be Me. That after all that's happened, all the records and all the songs and stuff, I Don't Want to Be Me is our most played song on Spotify.
Is it really?
Yes.
Wow. I mean, it's one of my top 3 songs, 100%.
But not mine. Definitely not mine.
I just like it. I think it's.
I like the video that we did because Dan Folger made the video, and so while we were making the video, watching him do his thing, that was the highlight of that song for me. Otherwise, to me, it felt kind of like filler. It was like a filler track, and then it was chosen as a single and stuff, and it was and now here we are, 20 that record's 20 years old, 22 now, something like that, right?
Yeah, I think so.
2003, right? And I thought that was, it was shocking for me to see that is now our most popular song.
So funny when you see Dan now, like in the movies that he does, whether it be Balls of Fury or
Walking Dead. He was in Walking Dead.
Walking Dead alone, or the Dane Cook like curse movie that he did. When you see Dan with what he's doing now, like how do you look back at the fact that he was in your music?
I make no bones about it. We take full responsibility for all of Dan Folger's success.
Nice.
It's all because of us.
Love it. As it should be, 100%. Yeah. Angel, anything final from yourself, my friend, or is there any final questions for Johnny popped up?
Do you still talk to Josh Silver?
Oh,
yes. Yeah, we spoke about that before while you were getting in your car. Yeah, I talk to Josh all the time. I talk to Josh all the time. Yeah. Yeah, we speak, like I was saying before, Typo Negative is still like a company. So there's always something going on, stuff with like merch things, reissues, and stuff with our catalog, and so there's a text thread between all of us and our manager. We all go back and forth, and usually it's kind of like picking up where we left off. We take care of business, and then there's all the wisecracks and sarcasm and stuff. Josh is still the same person. He hasn't changed.
Awesome.
Except now he's saving people's lives, which I'm still coming to terms with that. He's been doing it a long time now, and I always get nervous. Like I was like, the last thing I want to do is have to get into like a car accident in Brooklyn and then have him be the one that saves me.
100%. For sure. But
look at you, you're toast.
Yes. No, absolutely. But again, Johnny, like, thank you so much, man. I mean, it's been an absolute honor on my behalf, but also you just taking the time to hang out with me, Angel.
Thank you.
In your morning. And before we officially let you go, man, please, let everybody know like where Patriarchs in Black can be found, and anything that you want to plug as far as your own personal socials.
Patriarchs in Black, the most active thing that we utilize is Instagram.
Nice.
So that I would suggest if anybody wants any information on the band and stuff, that would be the place to go, and that's the most current, up to date, and most frequented. There is a Facebook page, and like I don't even know if I follow it. To be honest with you, I never do anything like I never really see much with patriarchs on my feed on like Facebook and stuff. Mostly it's all Instagram.
Gotcha.
People want to find out what I'm doing or whatever. You can, my Instagram page and my Facebook page are pretty active. I have them both linked together. So when I have something going on, I post. Usually it's a lot of pictures of drum sets. Like here I'm in, I'm in Louisville and I got this kit today. And just being a dork that way, or put pictures of my car and stuff like that.
Nice.
But usually it's just like a, kind of an announcement of what's going on, what records are coming out, what the band is up to, like, if we'll make it, whatever. Like was in New Orleans with Sun Don't Shine the past month, and we shot a couple of videos, and so I was like, posting pictures of us while we were making the video and things like that. Let's see. Hey dudes, I got to open for Johnny and Typo back in 1996 in Charlottesville, Virginia. My old band Aphasia, and 2 years ago in Roanoke, VA, when LNV opened for Quiet Riot. Oh, cool. What's up, Andy?
What's up, Andy? Andy's a good friend of ours. He's been on the show to talk about everything that he's got going on. Andy, that's so cool, bro. That's
very cool. So he's been in this a long time, like I have.
He has. And it looks like we got one more.
Lifer.
Oh yeah. And it looks like we've got one more question from Brenda. Johnny, if you don't mind. She wanted to know if you have a favorite Typo Negative song and what it is.
There's a few. There was I guess, it seems very, very standard, I guess. It was probably I've always loved Love You to Death.
Nice.
I've always liked Pain from the first record. That was killer. Anesthesia, I thought was a brilliant song. World Coming Down, the title track. Probably, today, World Coming Down is my favorite song.
Nice.
Usually it depends on my mood, like looking back like for me, our music is something totally different than listeners. I hear the songs and it takes me back to when we were working on them and what we were going through, and like that the whole experience of making those records. That's what I think about. I don't think it's hard for me to sit back and think, wow, it's a cool song. Let me listen to that. Let me put that on my playlist, or whatever. Like I don't listen to our music that way. It's more of this. It has more of a sentimental value in the sense of being involved in the process of it. So it's totally different. But to step out of that and to just look at the song as a listener. Yeah. World Coming Down, I think is probably my favorite. Like somewhere between World Coming Down, Love You to Death. Like Love You to Death is just such a great song.
Yes.
It's just it's a brilliant song. It's brilliantly written. The vocal melody, everything about it. It's like the perfect Typo song.
Absolutely.
And World Coming Down is perfect in its way, like where it really accurately describes Typo. Really sums up the band, lyrically, and like the dynamics in it and stuff. It's really cool in that sense. And like just from the opening guitar line, it's so heavy and it's so melodic at the same time.
Absolutely, man.
So that's what I like. Those are the things that I look for with Typo.
Right on, man.
That's was the stuff that I liked about the band.
I love it, man. And as a fellow, logo on skin guy, did you have your tattoo before you took the throne or after?
Oh, after. Yeah, we were on tour with Motley Crue.
Nice.
Yeah. And funny story, we were in Chicago, and there was this girl on the bus just hanging out. And Josh turns around and goes, "Look," he's like, "our fans have the tattoo and you don't." I was like, "Yeah, you're right." I said, "Let's go get it." He was like, "Really? I'll pay for it." I was like, "Okay, even better." and we went to a tattoo shop, and I got it done. He didn't pay for it. I paid for it. He
really?
Never gave, he never gave me the money for that. But anyway, that was it. So basically, Josh just gave me a hard time, and me caving to peer pressure. It was like, "Oh yeah, fuck it, let's go."
Nice.
And I got it. And not to boast, but my donut is the nicest one out of the 4 of ours.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Nice.
Mine is an actual circle, and it doesn't look like it was done by some guy in jail.
Oh, that's awesome, Johnny. Hell yeah.
And then
bro.
our manager, Mark Abramson, who was the radio guy at Roadrunner. He went and got the tattoo back then too, and they used my tattoo as the template because mine was the nicest one.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So
he has it. He has it also. Yeah.
You're the standard for typo.
Yes,
tattoo.
I've a friend of mine is a tattoo artist. He was like, "I need a picture of your arm," because he printed it out and used it as a template for one of our customers.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it, man. That's so sick.
Yeah, I get a text message, just I don't know, "Hey, I need a picture of your tattoo. I got somebody in the shop that wants it, and I need one for reference." So send.
Dude, absolutely amazing.
Yeah,
Angel.
funny stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Anything final from yourself, Angel?
Is there any place in the world that you still haven't played yet that you still want to?
Oh my God, there's plenty. There's like most of my career, like with Typo and Danzig, basically focused on the US and Europe. I got to go to Australia once with Danzig, and that was like the most remote place. We've played, like Mexico. I played Mexico with Typo and Danzig. But yeah, there's plenty of places. I've never been to Japan. I've never been to South America. There's a lot of places out there that you can go to that we never did. And Quiet Riot mainly focuses on the US. Like a lot of that kind of music didn't really catch on in Europe. The last time I played Wacken in Germany with Danzig, it was really weird to see Vince Neil and Dokken on the bill. It was really strange because you don't see those kinds of bands on the festivals. They just don't really go there. They didn't really invest, back then they didn't really invest the time, put the time in, to build a fan base as they were here in the States. And I mean, I've been to a lot of cool places, a lot of places that as a kid in school, stuff like old Eastern Bloc countries now that are opened up. And when I was in school, everything was just like rumors, and it'd be like, you're never going to see what these places are. You're never going to see who's in, how these people live, or you'll never get in there because it's all closed off. So it was cool to go to like Latvia and Estonia and Lithuania, to do shows there and stuff. It was really cool. But yeah, I've always wanted to go to Japan. Never been to Japan. Never been to any of the Asian territories and stuff. Always wanted to go there. Let me know if you need a Japan contact. I have a guy that books full tours with tour guides, food, room, board, all for around $14K. Oh, okay. Thanks. Sounds good. I do want to. Hopefully, eventually I get there. But I'm like so sour on flying. The thought of flying to Japan has zero appeal to me.
Right. I could definitely imagine that. Sure.
Yeah.
Again,
No, but It is like I've heard from friends of mine that have gone there and toured there, like Doyle.
Oh yeah.
Doyle went to Japan. I was like, "What's it like?" He's like, "Dude," he's like, "It's like being on another planet." it's like not just being in a different country or whatever. He's like, it's just totally weird, totally different.
I love Doyle. I love
Doyle.
He's from another planet too, though.
Right. This is true. Yeah.
No, we were having a conversation with a guest the other day, who played the whiskey opening up for Doyle, and was like, and I mean, Doyle's always been such a doll to me. Alex is great. Like, it's always super fun.
Doyle's really good people. I love.
Yeah,
Doyle.
totally.
He's the coach.
What's up?
He's the coach.
He's the coach. Yep.
Coach.
Yeah.
He gets the game. He gets the game ball after every game.
Yeah, nice. But no, I love hearing Doyle say, like, "Oh man, it's like being in another planet." I'm like,
that's what he said. Yeah, that's what he said, right? Because like he had gone there with his band, and then we were doing stuff with Danzig, and I was like, "How was Japan?" I was like, "What's it like over there?" I said, "I've never been there." He's like, "Dude, it's like being on another planet."
So
yeah. So
good.
it's something I would really like to experience. Maybe I'll go there on a trip, and
yeah.
But I mean, it'd be great to go there and play.
Oh yeah, definitely hoping that for sure for you. But Johnny, man, thank you again so much. It's been an absolute
thanks, guys. This was a lot of fun.
The thing, awesome, man. Yeah, because that's the biggest thing for me, Angel and Steve, is that that you enjoyed yourself, you had a good time, you felt respected, you liked the questions, and that you genuinely feel that this was time well spent for you.
And thanks again for being flexible.
Always 100%. And thank you as well for being so open to the experience. Like I said, like the guys, we're all fans, and I myself, your music has always been incredibly important to myself.
I appreciate it.
I really, I'm very honored that you took the time out.
See, that makes it all worth it. Here it is, like still
absolutely
still talking about it.
100%, man. Absolutely. And hopefully down the line, we'll get to talk about it again. And hopefully I'll get to see you in Baltimore at the Horseshoe.
Yeah. Let me know.
Sure. I will.
Right,
for sure.
So we'll have a drink.
Sounds great. Absolutely.
For that.
What's that?
There you go, man.
For that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Metal Summoners.
Angels buying.
Absolutely. but that means that he's going to take the Josh route, which means that you and I are going to buy, and then maybe it'll come back.
Oh yeah. Oh,
I'm
really? You'll get that? I'll pay for it.
I was going to pay for it.
I know, Angel. It's all good, brother. Just messing with you.
Bill, but still.
Oh, we're just teasing you.
100%. And Metal Summoners, thank you guys so much. You guys, like I said, you guys were absolute rock stars tonight. Thank you for being so awesome to Johnny, so courteous to the show, and great interaction. Make sure that you're following Johnny at all of his socials on Instagram and all of the various band socials as well, so you stay up with everything that he's got going on. You can follow Angel at Angel Alamo 78 on Instagram. You can also find him on Facebook. You can find Steve at The Real Psycho Steve on Instagram, as well as PsychoStevePresents.com. And you can find me on Instagram at Salem.Vampire, but you can also find me under Salem Vampire as well on Facebook. We really appreciate you guys rocking out with us. Please follow and subscribe to the Metal Summit on Facebook and on YouTube, because that's where you're watching Johnny right now, and that's where you guys have been able to interact with him all morning. But also, if you like knowing what the Metal Summit has going on and knowing our guests first and foremost, please follow us on Instagram, because that's where the guest announcements come out first. But again, on behalf of the Metal Summit, for myself, for Steve, and for Angel, and again, on behalf of the great Johnny Kelly, we really appreciate you guys hanging out with us and showing him so much respect. We will see you guys very soon, in about a week. Guest announcement over the weekend for the next episode. Thank you guys so much for all of your participation, and we'll see you guys soon. As always, you've been watching the Metal Summit.